finds a safe space so they can get the help that they need. So if I can help you guys help them, I'm here for it. I have been a recovery crusader for a while. The reason why I'm actually in Littleton is because I got kicked out of the Navy before I even joined, but I went to MEPS. I tested positive for cannabis, and they told me that I could not join the military, and I said, that's kind of messed up. And they said, that's the way, that's the breaks. So Cheryl says, you know, like, I think that was meant to happen. You're exactly where you need to be, and I agree with Cheryl. So I'm a huge human rights activist. I believe that all of this stuff intersects. So if you are somebody who's dealing with substance abuse disorder, if you are an LGBTQ person, if you're a person of color, if you are a woman, all of this stuff intersects. It all brings its own challenges and barriers, and the more that we realize that it intersects, I think the more people that we can help. And like my dream job, though, you guys, is to be a professional geek. If I could read comic books and just watch comic book movies, like, and get paid for that, I'm here for it. I just want to do that. So yeah, that's me. Basic terms, you guys. I'm gonna say you guys or y'all. I'm really trying to, like, take out the you guys because it's a gendered term. So I say y'all and kind of sound like I'm from the South. But I hope that that's okay. So we'll go through the basic terms right now. Lesbian, obviously, is usually a woman or a girl who is romantically or sexually attracted to other women or girls. Gay is usually a man or a boy who is sexually attracted to other, I was supposed to say men, not women, or boys. Bisexual is someone who is romantically or sexually attracted to one or more genders. Similar but not the same terms is pansexual and omnisexual. So there's a distinction of those terms. You'll hear people either use them interchangeably or say, like, I'm not bisexual, I'm a pansexual or an omnisexual. There is similarities, and I believe it's in the packet, the Know Better, Do Better packet, but they're not the same. That distinction is very, very important to people who identify as pan, bi, or omni. Transgender is an umbrella term that describes a person whose gender identity does not match the one that's assigned at birth. So you'll hear a lot of us in the trans community use things like assigned sex at birth, right? I'm female, assigned female at birth. And we use that as it's our term to say this is what I was born as, this assigned sex at birth. I am now transitioned, and this is my gender identity. It has always been like that up here, but when we start socially transitioning and also physically transitioning, that's when we start bringing you guys in and using terms like I am assigned female at birth. So intersex is a person born with several variations in sexual characteristics, including chromosomes, gonads, sex hormones, genitals, and according to the UN of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, do not fit the typical definitions of male or female bodies. So someone with 2 X chromosomes and a Y would be considered intersex, just for an example. And then LGBTQ+ is the acronym most widely used by the gay or queer community. Other acronyms include the gender romantic sexual minorities, GMSR community. It's fairly new. That's why I still have a tough time saying it. But there are other terms. Queer community is used interchangeably with LGBTQ+. As more of like a catch-all to be as inclusive as possible. So I said romantic and sexual attraction, so I want to also define those terms for you guys. For y'all, sexual attraction is the emotional and or physical response that a person feels when they find a person sexually appealing. So for cis-het folks, when you look at someone of the opposite sex and you're like, that one, that is, I would like to take that person home, that's sexual attraction. Romantic attraction is the secondary stuff, right? Like the cuddles, like, you know, for our het women out there, like a big, strong, strapping man to put his arms around you, hold you tight, make you feel safe. Like, you like that. It's romantic attraction. And then sex and gender. So I said assigned sex is the label a person is given at birth. So it's usually, a doctor looks at you, like, do you have a penis? Do you have a vulva? Girl, boy, done, right? And then biological sex is a term used in place of assigned sex and could mean female assigned or male assigned or intersex. It can also include chromosomes, secondary sexual characteristics, and hormones. Gender or gender identity is a label used more broadly to denote a range of expressions, identities that may or may not correspond with the ideas that we have of male or female. So when we talk about binary, we're talking about male or female. And that exists in a spectrum. You know, some people are super, super femme. Some people are very, very masculine. That's their gender expression. The people who are outside of the binary are not in that spectrum. We've kind of like taken ourselves out of it, whether that we are agender or bigender, omnigender, gender fluid. There's a lot of terms. I'm not going to bog you guys down with all of them because I've been living with this my whole life and I only have 2 hours with you guys. So, but the gender binary refers to those two distinct ends of the spectrum. And usually for cis people, that is male or female. So cis and trans, while we're on the subject, a cisgender person, it's the adjective that we use to denote a person whose gender identity does match the one that they're assigned at birth. So if you are assigned female at birth and you feel like a woman up here and in here, you're a cis woman. Vice versa with men. Transgender is an adjective that is used to denote someone whose gender does not correspond with the one that they were assigned with at birth. There are times where I'm an internet keyboard warrior as well, so there are people that say cis is a slur. It's not, I promise. It's just really just a term to deny, to identify you as someone who identifies as someone, their sex matches the one that they were assigned at birth. Whew. Sorry, you guys, I haven't spoken in front of people in quite some time. So like I said, gender is a spectrum. This is some of the terms for people outside of the binary, like myself. So non-binary, it is a spectrum of gender identities that are not exclusively male or female. Someone who identifies as outside of the gender binary. Agender means they have no gender. They don't have an attachment to gender at all. Bigender, they have more than one gender. Demigender is kind of where I sort of fit in. It's basically like a partial connection to any gender. It doesn't, I have a partial connection to my assigned sex at birth, but it doesn't have to be like that. Gender fluid. Has anyone watched Orange is the New Black? Okay, Ruby Rose, Stella, right? She identifies as gender fluid. She'll talk about some days she feels very, very altered to them. There are days that she feels more like a boy. They could change throughout the day of how she decides to express that. And her pronouns are she and her. And I really liked her. That's why I brought her up. Yes. Yes.
So I'm curious on the gender fluid, and then you said demi-woman.
Yes.
And so you also said that the gender identity is a range of expression, and gender binary refers to the two distinct ends of the spectrum. So what about somebody like me? I consider myself a cis woman, but I also consider myself not extreme on the feminine side.
Right.
Not like when I was a kid, we were referred to as tomboys, right?
Right.
Same. So where would I, should I?
I mean, like, if up here and in here, you identify as a woman, even if your expression is not actually super hyper feminine, because the gender binary is a spectrum.
Okay.
Just like the non-binary is a spectrum. The gender binary is a spectrum. So you can still be a woman, but have a more androgynous expression, because gender identity is very, very different than gender expression. So those are two different terms. Okay. So what you're talking about is how you express your gender.
Okay.
Yeah. So your gender identity, though, is a cisgender woman. The way that you express it is that you might be a little bit tomboy. And that's still, like, for me, because I was told that I was a tomboy, like, and I was told, like, all my whole life that this was, like, a phase that I was going to grow out of. I will be 35 this year. I don't think that this is the longest phase I've ever been in, you guys. So I don't think that for me this is not really, like, you know, like, it's more than that. Like, it's more than just, like, the tomboy thing, because I'm just assuming, and I don't want to make, like, horrible assumptions, but, like, it's not just, like, you were a tomboy, you like to, like, be dirty and, like, really get in there with the boys, play army and soldier and stuff like that, like cops and robbers.
Well, I had 4 brothers, so you
can
say that.
Yeah, okay. I didn't like any of that stuff. I don't like being dirty. I don't like running and jumping. I hate loud noises. I don't want to pretend to kill anyone. But my gender expression is very masculine and androgynous. Okay. Even though I don't really have any connection to the masculine gender. I'm not, like, I like a spa day. I feel like everybody should like that. Like, so basically what we're talking about is, what we're talking about here is gender identity. What you're asking about is gender expression, which is a little bit different. And yeah, no worries. So gender nonconforming is also something that it's a gender expression that is just basically like, I am a woman, but I just dress like a dude, or I am a male and I like really pretty makeup. There's a YouTuber by the name, I think his name is Charles James or James Charles. Gorgeous man, like perfect makeup. I wish. But I would consider him to be a little bit gender nonconforming. I don't know how he identifies personally. I know that he uses he and him as his pronouns, but I don't know if he is gender nonconforming. I just know that he's not really, like, his gender expression, not traditionally masculine. But seriously, look him up. His, like, you will thank me. So we know what the L, the B, the G, and T stand for. I always get, like, because there's a huge acronym to this, so, like, everyone's like, what does the Q stand for? The Q stands for either questioning, someone who is questioning their sexuality or gender identity. We, in the LGBTQ community, we leave room for people who are just trying to figure it out. They might, at some point, go, okay, I am definitely straight, I am definitely cis, and that's cool. But we want to make sure that they have a space where they feel comfortable in exploring that side of themselves. It also means queer. Now, you'll hear me say queer community. I personally like the term. A lot of people are really sketchy about it. It was a slur, or it is a slur, but it's also a reclaimed term by the queer community. It's something that we have taken back and sort of repurposed. I've heard people say, like, I'm not gay, I'm queer because I want to acknowledge that Black trans women got me my rights. Yeah, so it's basically some queer history for you guys. So asexual, the A in LGBTQ, oh God, this is why we use the other terms. But the A in that acronym means either asexual, someone who has no sexual attraction whatsoever, or aromantic, or someone who has no romantic sexual attraction, like no romantic attraction. I see you got a question? No?
No.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Romantic and not aromatic.
This is supposed to be aromantic.
No.
And that A means none. Like asexual means no sexual attraction, aromantic means no romantic attraction. So these are people that don't want to hold hands, have relationships, do that kind of stuff. They don't like cuddling. That's not really their thing. They can or cannot have sexual attraction. And asexual people will usually identify in a split term model. So an asexual person might say that I am biromantic and asexual, or I am panromantic and asexual. I am het romantic and asexual. And that usually just denotes the kinds of relationships that they go after. Yeah. Okay. So I think microaggressions used, yeah.
All right.
Wait, so.
Yes. I'm here for it, Holly. What's up?
That last, I'm pan-romantic, or I'm bi-romantic.
Okay. Yeah. So the the split attraction model, I really love the split attraction model. Not everybody uses it. Not everybody has to. The split attraction model really breaks up attraction into 2 points, sexual and romantic. So it gets a little complicated and it gets a little weird, but it's just a way that we can, the language and the terms that we use is not necessarily for me, it's for y'all. It's so I can communicate to you guys in a language that we can all like agree on that these are the meanings of these terms. So when someone says I am a pan-romantic asexual, means that they can basically be romantically attracted to anyone, regardless of their gender identity. They're a hearts not parts kind of person, but they don't experience sexual attraction.
Heart, not heart.
Yeah, that's good. That went down.
All right, yeah. So any other questions about that? All right, cool.
That's really good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Wow. Thank you. That was really, there's going to be a quiz. But Dick did such a good job with that language, and in the community for us, it's constantly changing, and we're constantly learning from people in our community who are coming up with phrases and expressions that best fit people. And so someone may think lesbian is this, and I grew up thinking lesbian is something very specific. I'm in my 50s, so what I grew up thinking what a lesbian was, it was my PE teacher, right? But we know that's not, there's so much more to it than that, right? And I have friends who are trans guys, so someone who was assigned female at birth and transition, and they know themselves to be a dude, but they were so part of the lesbian community for so long that they didn't want to let that part of themselves go. And so they still kind of feel like they're a lesbian even though they're a dude. And so there's a lot more flexibility around the language that we use today. And so it's always best is to let people self-identify. Absolutely, don't put labels on people. And then if you're don't really understand what that word is or term, it's just, hey, I've heard that term used many different ways. What does that mean to you? It's a really gentle way of just, I want to learn a little more. I don't want to be invasive. And if you're comfortable telling me what it means to be pan-romantic, I'd love to know. Yeah, so thank you. That was really great, for sure. And I think identified with virtually every letter so far. LGBTQ. I'm not intersex. That I know that. For sure. When I was growing up, I didn't understand what trans was. Trans wasn't a word. Didn't exist in anyone's language. When I grew up, transgender was not a word. So I grew up with words like transvestite and transsexual. And maybe some of you who are more my age or older remember hearing those terms. And those really aren't used much anymore unless someone actually does identify with those terms, right? And so just be aware of that. So I think that's important for sure. All right, I'm going to talk just a little bit about microaggressions because why not? Because we're not in mosquito season, so we can talk about mosquitoes. Who's ever gotten a mosquito bite? Great. All right, you all live in New Hampshire, you know what that is. Most of us can survive a mosquito bite unless for some reason we're really allergic to them, right? We get one, and we slap our wrist, and then we kind of forget about it. Maybe it's a little itch the next day or two, and it goes away, right? Everyone can relate to that. Everyone in this room has that experience of what that feels like, right? And we're talking about microaggressions. It could be for any community, whether you're a part of the LGBT community, you're part of a racial minority, anywhere where someone says something or behaves in a way that doesn't respect who you are as a person, right? And maybe it's not the most giant thing in the world, like firing you from a job, right? Or pushing you out of the way or harassing you or whatever. Those are aggressive. A microaggression is a lot more subtle, right? And sometimes if you're not part of that community, you may never even notice it happen, right? And so, for example, one of the most common ones I get, and it doesn't happen all that much as much, I have this great privilege of being able to walk down the street where most people don't see me for who I am. It's like that invisibility cloak from Harry Potter. I walk down the street and people don't say, oh my God, look at that trans woman. That's, that doesn't happen. For whatever reason, that doesn't happen, right? But my voice isn't, it's not the prettiest, most feminine voice in the world, and I'm okay with that now. I've totally embraced my Elmo voice or whatever I have. And that's cool. But there's still times when I get misgendered, and it's the weirdest and most strangest places too. It usually comes out of nowhere. Calling LL Bean, I'm like, I ordered these like a month ago. Where the F are my boots? Oh, I'm sorry, sir. They're on back order. They'll be in next week. Oh, great. Oh, it's ma'am. Oh, and then someone freaks out at the other end. Right? And so that's a little like a microaggression where someone made a decision about you that isn't accurate. Right? And so it kind of puts you like, oh, I'm not being seen for who I am. Right? And those can happen all over the place, time and time again, depending on where you are. And those microaggressions can build up. So think of a microaggression as like a mosquito, right? And so let's say that happens. Incidents like that, where you get misgendered, use the wrong name, use the wrong pronouns, say someone uses a term in a derogatory way, right? And so those will add up. And think of each one of those throughout your week as a mosquito bite, right? And so in the morning you get misgendered, you get in a cab, someone asks you have you had surgery. I'm like, what the fuck is your problem? That happens all the time. What businesses is it for? Right? Oh, what's in your pants? Or when did you realize, or how long have you been trans? Trans my whole life. How long have you been stupid? Usually don't say that. What happens is when those things occur, usually it's different people, right? And so they're not aware of what's happening to you. They're not aware that at the end of the week, I may be covered in mosquito bites, right? That I'm going to be a swollen, itchy, pus-filled human by the end of a week because of all those little things add up, right? And then, this is what really happens. And then finally, what's your name? Daisy. So I'm going to use Daisy. So then Daisy, not really her own fault, but Daisy says something that gets me the wrong way. And then I just, how could you misgender me? Oh my God, I've been told you I'm Gia for like a month now, and it's she, her, Daisy. And you get the wrath. Has anyone got the wrath yet? You haven't got the wrath yet?
No.
Oh.
Of different things, but.
Yeah, right? Yeah, right? And so what happens is you may get the wrath, Daisy, just because you were that last mosquito bite, right? And I just had a shitty week. And it's not you. It's not you personally. Just I've had a really crappy week, and I've been bit by a lot of mosquitoes, and you're just the last one. And so I think that happens a lot. Or why can't those trans people just give me a little space? I'm still learning. Why can't, whatever. And I get that excuse a lot. Why can't trans people and non-binary people, give us a little more time to get caught up? And usually it's in reaction to one incident, but really that one incident is probably connected in that trans person or queer person's space has been happening quite a bit. So you're going to get like, why can't you get this? So that's kind of the analogy between microaggressions and mosquitoes. And that's all I wanted to share with you on that. Question?
Yeah, so let's say are guilty of a microaggression, and we realize it in the moment.
Yes.
What's the best way to address it
Thanks, Daisy.
without making it worse?
Yeah, perfect, perfect. And so let's say you do make a mistake. And it does matter where you are when you do this. This actually gets a little bit more in the weeds on this. So if it's a really simple, like, Daisy, by mistake, you call me he, right? And you catch yourself, actually, right? Oh, no. I'm sorry. It's she, and I knew that. I'll do better. Boom. Close the door, move on, right? And just don't make it about you. Don't start flapping your wings. Oh my God, I can't believe I did that. Right? Just, I'm sorry. You're right. It's she. And move on, right? I think there's a way to do it depending on in your situation where it gets a little more cumbersome, right? When you're dealing with someone else misgendering somebody else in your space. So maybe you're in a group setting, you're doing like a group support setting, and someone is misgendering someone else in your support group, right? Whose responsibility is it to intervene? Who's the bystander in that space to say, hey, that's Sally and she uses she, her, and hers?
Facilitator.
It could be, yes, very much. And I'd like to, the facilitator, Donna, is it?
Yeah.
Donna said it's the facilitator's responsibility to check the people in the group. I also want to make sure you're not taking agency away from a person in that space too, who may want to say, speak up for themselves. Who may say, wait a minute, I'm Sally, I'm she, her, and I'm okay checking that person across the room. And so it does get into a little more interpersonal in terms of rules and regulations and community agreements you may have in that space on who's going to be calling in people about misgendering, misnaming in that space. Especially check in with the folks if they are using a newer name or pronoun. Do you want to be able to handle that, or should I, as a facilitator, come up with some protocol and discussion around that? Because I think that is a really important discussion. We do a lot with that with managers in stores, especially in schools, with young people. Is the teacher responsible or the student responsible? But in peer groups, that happens a lot, where I'm not going to honor that person's name and pronouns. I don't believe in that bullshit. They're not trans. They're making that up, right? And so where are you as a facilitator in that space in conversation with that other person so you're not stepping on their agency as well, for sure. Does that answer that question a little? Yeah, I wish there was like a one word, yes, do that, and we're done, but it's not. So keep asking questions like that. Super. All right, I think that's, Nick, you're back. Yeah, Nick's going to talk about gender dysphoria. Whoa! Woo! DSM 5.
Awesome. So I found this little animation on the YouTubes, and it's going to give you guys a little bit of a brief overview of what gender dysphoria is, and then I will explain how that is, like, it personally affects me.
Dysphoria, a term many don't know but may still feel. It's basically the disassociation or depression someone may feel towards parts of their body. This can apply anywhere from voice pitch or the chest region to feet size or height as a whole. And when someone is faced with a person misgendering or deadnaming them, it's just another reminder of their dysphoria. A lot of people don't understand what dysphoria feels like, and I understand that. Sometimes it's difficult to see a situation from another's perspective. In other words, dysphoria feels like wearing your right shoe on your left foot and your left shoe on your right foot, but never taking them off. So it's uncomfortable, and you can't be your true self. Like, how could you run or play a sport to your best ability when you have shoes on like that? And maybe you forget about it for a bit while sitting or getting distracted, but once you start walking, you'll notice it all over again. That being said, everyone feels dysphoria at different levels. While one might only bother you a bit, another might feel like being shot with an arrow. Besides the obvious, there are a few ways to help deal with dysphoria. Definitely find someone you can talk to, but also find time for yourself. Doing hobbies or sports that distract you. Heck, even drawing these animations help me. And just remember, you aren't alone when it comes to feeling dysphoria. Take a deep breath and know it'll be okay. It's difficult to handle sometimes, but it's not impossible to overcome. To fix your shoes and walk proud.
That's really good.
Thank you. Just like a really quick YouTube search of gender dysphoria, because I couldn't really explain it.
For them, which is without a doubt the cannabis cat.
Well, there you guys go. okay? Like, you know, we're just gonna talk about the cannabis cup for a second.
That pivoted quickly.
Yeah, it really did, it really did.
Segue.
Yeah, right there. Cool. All right, so, Gia talked a lot about, her privilege in a space, and I will talk a little bit about mine. I am usually socially accepted in most, queer spaces, especially, or like, honestly, not in most queer spaces, but, in most spaces. I present very, androgynous, and it's really easy for people to just take out that non-binary part of my identity and just go, that is a butch lesbian. And that's fine to an extent. It just erases a part of my identity. And so, like Gia was talking about with those mosquito bites, that starts to weigh on a person. Constantly, sort of like being complicit in your own oppression, almost. Just allowing someone to misgender you, to deny a part of your identity, and dysphoria is going to be different for everybody. This person described it as wearing your shoes on two different feet, on the wrong feet. I will describe it in a different way. How many people are Patriots fans? Everybody? Okay. So you know it here and here that you are a Patriots fan, right? That's in your soul. You were born a Patriots fan for some of you, right? Well, what if every day someone came up to you and said, you don't really look like a Patriots fan. You kind of look like an Eagles fan. And then they had a snide comment every single time. Hey, what's up, Eagles fan? That would make you so angry. And you would start to feel a sense of dysphoria. That as soon as that person came by, you know that they're going to have that remark for you. They know that they're going to say, and it's like tongue-in-cheek, it's like really annoying. It's kind of like your little brother who like learns how to like that game Shadow. And you just like, at first, it's like, huh, and then it's annoying, and then you want to punch them in the face. Like, and that's sort of what it is, you know, like, haha, that's super cute. I wish you would stop, and then they don't, and you try to, like, say, hey, I would really appreciate it if you stopped. They keep on going, and now when you blow up, you are the crazy person that blew up on that person. They didn't know. How dare you be so mean to that person who is just ignorant? And it is hard. That adds to my dysphoria personally, because I feel like when I'm in spaces, people would much rather insulate people who are ignorant and bigoted than they are willing to make that space safe for me. So gender dysphoria for me, I've always wanted to be a little bit on the androgynous side. I didn't want to really like look a certain gender. There's a meme that I really love on the internet that's all like, I don't know what my gender is, but I want to walk down the street and say, and have someone go, I don't know who that person is, but I know that they're homosexual. So I'm still trying to figure that out, but I really like to identify as androgynous. When someone tells you that your dress looks good, or you look really snazzy in a suit, you get that kind of, I get the same way when someone says, you look really androgynous today. The times that I feel dysphoria are, and I'm going to get a little bit TMI with you guys, it's when I'm on my period, to be quite honest. I'm very, very aware of my body. My boobs hurt. I never wanted these in the first place. And, you know, you're just like, and honestly, I wish that I could give this stuff to some trans girl, be like, here, this is yours. Because you'll do so much better with it than I will. Like, we can...
More than that, though. All the women in the room had
and so it's constant. The first woman that I was ever romantically involved with said, there's no denying that you are a woman. And that hurt. That was somebody that I was intimate with, and they wouldn't even see who I was, like, really. I have my family members who still to this day go, you had no problem up until 32 pretending to be a straight cis woman. Why can't you continue? I've known you your whole life. You didn't seem to have a problem with it. But they don't know all the times where I was with my friends telling them, I will never be a good girl. It will never happen. And that's hard. We don't like to say things like marijuana, cigarettes, alcohol are gateway drugs. We like to say that trauma is a gateway drug. Trauma is the gateway drug. My trauma started really early. It started when I was born in a world that insisted that I was a cis woman. I grew up during the AIDS crisis in a place where it was the only place in San Diego that they would allow gay men to cohabitate. I've seen people die of AIDS. I've seen a government be really complicit in that death and that violence. I've marched twice in the San Diego Pride Parade. I've been picketed every single year that I've been there. And the stuff is just hateful. And all of that adds to our gender dysphoria. When we're constantly reminded that we live in a world where there are people that will not accept us, and that there are more people that may accept us, but allow those people to have space, because it's just a difference of opinion. It's not just a difference of opinion. You deciding whether or not I'm human and I deserve respect is not, for me, a difference of opinion. This is my livelihood. So it is hard. It is hard every single week. I make my coworkers crazy, and I don't have a language for them to tell them, hey, sometimes I wake up and I feel like I'm in a meat suit that itches and doesn't fit right. How do you articulate that to someone? And these are very empathic people. My center is really good at their job. But if they don't know, then they don't know. And I don't have the words to articulate, how do you articulate to someone, hey, seriously, being inside my body sometimes hurts. Or somebody called me Tiffany the other name, which is my dead name. I had my whole family for a week. I went home for a week. My whole family called me Tiffany. And people are like, well, it's really hard for them. They've known you as Tiffany your whole life. They've been with Tiffany for 30 years, and I get that. And there's some leeway with that. But I had a sibling that introduced me to told people that I was here by saying, Tiffany's here. She goes by Nico now, but Tiffany's here. So you get it. You get the concept. You just don't care. I just don't matter enough. And that's my people. These are the people that I grew up with. This is the sibling that took beatings from me when our addict parent was being crazy. How do I tell that person? You can't. And so I'll get into this when we get into it, but the two biggest drugs that are affected the queer community are cocaine and ecstasy, a numbing agent and something that makes you feel good. So it's really, really important to understand that all of us, what we're trying to do is just stop this hurt. And for people who have dealt with people who are living with recovery, who've lived in active addiction, y'all know what it's like to want to make that stop hurting. It's the exact same thing. It's just this little added element that it's not a personal trauma. It's like the world that has traumatized us. So yeah, that's gender dysphoria, you know. There you go. So.
Yeah. That can be really hard to talk about and hear and feel. So thank you, Nick. Absolutely. And when I turned, I think 11 or 12, when I started puberty's hell anyways, right? And then my body started to change. It started to look like my brother's. I had that for a few years there. You're like, oh, I look kind of like my sister. And we're at the same age, a year younger. And then all of a sudden things started to happen. And I didn't know how to quiet that. It really felt like my body was burning. It was on fire. And so what I turned to was alcohol. I started drinking by the time I was 12. I was stealing liquor out of my parents' liquor cabinet to just, like, quiet it all out completely. And it's not uncommon for folks in the community to start doing anything to quiet, calm, numb all those feelings. I had no control over what my body was doing. And there was no avenue for me, growing up in a very conservative Catholic house, to talk to my parents about what it meant to be queer and trans in that space, right? And then I became a target. You know, by the time I became a teenager, I became a target for different people. People could read something going on inside of me, and I tried to hide it from the world. And I became an athlete, captain of my high school football team, and things like that. But you could still tell there was something going on, and some people preyed on me because of that. And because they were starting to see me, I actually kind of liked it. And it was really fucked up when I look back, that I was being seen in for being queer, and it felt good, but these were older men, right? These were men in their 30s and 40s who were giving me attention, and I liked that because they were seeing me for being queer, but it was totally fucked up because I was 16 years old, right? So that's really, like, fucks with your brain for a long time. You're getting, like, this positive reinforcement because you're being seen for being queer, and you're having sex with an older man, and that was like, but it also was, in terms of power, I was being abused. And that really was fucking with my head, right? As you're nodding your head, absolutely, it does, right? You start drinking more. You start fighting more. You know, by the time I was like 25 years old and I moved back to Boston, drinking every night, passing out, blacking out, very confused about dealing with my family, dealing with my sexual trauma. And then it took a beating. I got dragged out of a bar in Boston into an alley and left for dead for all sorts of reasons. But it woke me up. I mean, for me, that was an awakening in terms of my alcohol use, where I can't get into that place because I'm putting myself in danger of dying. I already made a decision about my sexual behavior because my partner was already HIV positive at that time, and he later died. So I was very aware of that too, for sure. And so I think I'm just going to talk a little bit more about the statistics around substance use in our community, but it's absolutely real, and I definitely have lived that and still live with those feelings. But working to figure out my gender dysphoria is very individualized, as Nick said. It's kind of different for everybody and every different world that we grew up with, for sure. But I've had the good fortune and privilege to have some support around me, which has saved my life, to recognize and connect with other trans people like me. About 10 years ago, I started to realize I wasn't a monster, because that's what I was taught, and I internalized that self-transphobia. I believed I was a monster. The only thing I saw growing up was depictions of me as a rapist, as a serial killer, as a murderer, as a criminal, as all these things. Think about it. Think of all the depictions of anyone who is gender variant, especially a trans woman growing up in films back to the 50s and 60s, or even into the 80s or 90s with Silence of the Lambs. We are depicted as monsters. How could I not believe that's who I was? And no wonder I pushed myself away from that for so long, right? So that's a reality. We're still being taught that. We're still being taught that trans people are dangerous. We shouldn't be allowed to go to the bathroom, right? Here in New Hampshire, someone put forward a bill just 2 weeks ago, not letting transgender girls participate in sports. Because what are we, dangerous? We're going to take every medal? It's ridiculous. But that still persists to this day. We have not had that turning point yet. It's still pervasive that we're here fooling you to get all the cash and prizes. Let me tell you, there are no cash and prizes being trans, right? So there's a reality to all this that I think is really important. That's why we're talking about this. Some people are like, why are we talking about this? All humans are the same. Well, we're not all treated the same. That's the reality, right? So when we're talking about names and pronouns, I think it's important because that is probably the easiest and the hardest thing people sort of wrestle with. As Nick was talking about, going home and being misgendered constantly is just, gut-wrenching to hear that. And I avoid going home sometimes because I know my dad's going to fuck up. And he's a sweetie. He's 86, and his health is failing, and his mind isn't all there. And so he knows me as that former self for so long, and I kind of have to roll with it a little bit, but I can't stay around that very long. So I'm like, good to see you. I'm out of here, because I just can't be around that for a very long time, you know. So the number one request we get from folks in the community, please honor my names and pronouns. And the number one request we get from folks outside the community is, how can I do a better job honoring names and pronouns? 45 minutes? Oh, we're supposed to be subtle about that.
We're halfway through.
We're halfway through. You made it halfway through. All right. So a little bit more about names and pronouns for those who had some questions. Many of us use a different name than our legal name that's on our ID or on our birth certificate. Right? There are folks in this room right now. I have a feeling there's someone in here who's using a different name. Probably a Liz, a Kate, a Chuck, right? A Matt, a Bubba. Is there a Bubba? How about a Buffy? Not in New Hampshire. Maybe in the summer. Right? And that's totally cool. You can even have it in your name badge and no one's going to give you shit for it. But when a trans person says, hey, I want to be Gia, and we're like, oh, no, you can't be Gia. That's not your legal name. So there's still an undercurrent that we're trying to deceive you. Right? And so be aware. Everyone gets the right to choose a better name for themselves. I chose Gia. And before it was legally done, you know, I had to remind people, and I still have to remind people. And not everyone can do that. Not everyone can legally change their name. It's really hard to do, right? I don't know if you've ever done it. I don't know that the process in New Hampshire right now, I probably should have investigated it before coming today, but in Maine, I'll tell you the most bizarre, you have to go before a probate judge and say, I want to change my name. You have to pay like the $50, $60 fee. And the judge will ask you, why do you want to change your name? Well, because Gia is much better than that other name I was using for 43 years. It describes me better. Okay. Are you trying to get out of any debt or things like that? No. Well, you have to publish in a newspaper for a week. What? Well, that's the law. And so, in the newspaper, it would have said, Gia Drew of 20 Stone Road of Kennebunkport has changed their name from whatever my previous name was. It wasn't, I'm going to say George Drew. And now everyone knows that I've changed my name. So talk about a barrier. Talk about lack of privacy and confidentiality around a very personal matter. And I don't know if that's the same in New Hampshire. Probably similar. What?
Not had to go through the same
Yeah.
BS.
Yeah, the total same BS, exactly. So that's another barrier. So not everyone has the agency or the money or the capacity to go through with changing their name legally. It's a real hurdle to do that. If you have to ask for someone's legal name, ask everyone a legal name and have an option for a preferred or chosen name on all your forms. Make that universal so you're not singling out the people you think are trans. That's creepy. Don't be creepy in public. Don't be creepy at home, whatever, don't be creepy. But on the job, don't be creepy. Deadnaming, I think Nick used the phrase deadnaming. It's just when you use someone's previous name without their consent. Right? To some people, that previous name is dead to them and never fits them. In fact, you could be putting them in harm's way by outing them, right? And maybe they weren't able to update their forms and their paperwork, and they use a chosen name, but they've been using that for a very long time. And they come into a space that you're occupying, and by mistake, you use their dead name. And now you have to explain that and walk back that a little bit, right? So just be aware of when and how you use legal names versus chosen names, for sure. Some folks don't use traditional pronouns. Most of us grew up with he and she, I guess. But in parts of the world, there are no pronouns. And so be aware of that too. There are plenty of places in the world where pronouns don't even exist. What a wonderful language that is. But we grew up mostly with these romantic languages here that have a lot of gender connected to them. And then if you're in doubt, names are wonderful. So don't even use pronouns or gendered language is a really great trick. And be proactive. Hi, I'm Gia. I use she, her, hers. Right? Just get it out of the way. You know, it didn't hurt me to do that. It didn't cost me anything. And by doing that, one, I am sharing that to the world so you don't make assumptions about me, right? And so when I leave here today, and if you want to badmouth me, at least you're going to, right? She was the worst presenter ever. But at least you gendered me correctly, right? So I do that so you don't have to make assumptions. So you don't have to worry about making assumptions about me because of my name, the way I talk, or the tone of my voice, or the way I dress, or whatever. And you're putting out that bat signal, beep, 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 that you're on board. I'm willing to be vulnerable and share my pronouns. And the people that need to hear that are going to see you and hear that, and you're going to start to build a relationship with that person, right? But it's going to take vulnerability to do that. It's the easiest and hardest thing you will do is share your pronouns just regularly, willy-nilly, like, hi, I'm Gia, she, her. It's weird, it's awkward. And I do it everywhere, and people expect it now when I go to the State House to testify, and they're like, oh, it's Gia, she's probably going to share her pronouns. I am. So we're going to practice a little bit here. The tables are really big, so I do want to break the tables up a little bit. Those are 6s. So we can make those in groups of 3, and if you're not in a group of 3, find someone to join with. Introduce your name, your pronouns if you use them. You can reintroduce your title if you have a job, just so people get to know who you are. I think that's really great to network. I want you to think about a positive experience with the LGBTQ community. Maybe an early one, maybe one you haven't thought about for a while, but one that maybe has stayed with you a little bit, because I think that's important. So before we break into groups, let me share and model that for you, being the consummate teacher. Hi, I'm Gia. I use she, her pronouns. Actually, I don't really use them. I just want you to use them when you talk about me or write about me. It'd be weird if I spoke in the third person. That's a whole other story. I'm the program director at Equality Maine, and I think the first positive experience, and I keep coming up with new ones because I keep thinking about it, but I didn't have a lot growing up, being 53. But I remember in the 9th grade, I was assigned to read a book called Catcher in the Rye. Has anyone ever read that book? A couple of you. It used to be mandatory back in the day. Right? It was a maroon, dark maroon paperback with gold letters across the front. And I really struggled and still struggle with reading. It's not an easy thing for me to do. But I had a mad crush on my English teacher, Mr. Durazio. You would have too. I don't care what your gender is. You would have been like, yeah, he's hot. He was like 24. He had long wavy hair. He was all muscular, had beautiful blue eyes. And I'm human, just like anybody else. And so I wanted to impress him, so I read this book, and I sat in the front row. Cover me. I remember nothing. This is probably 37 years ago now. I remember nothing about the book, really. It all gone away. But except for one paragraph. One paragraph has kind of like stayed with me. And if you remember the story, the main character is Holden Caulfield. He's 16 years old, and he just got kicked out of high school again. I could relate. I got in a lot of trouble as a teenager. Totally could relate to that. And he ends up in New York City, and he checks into a hotel room. I don't think you could do that today, but he did back then. And he goes into his hotel room, and he has this little bag, and he looks out his window. There's no windows in this room. This is really weird. Let's pretend there's a window. And he can see out the window, and he can see into another building. I don't know if that building's an apartment or in a hotel. And he can see into another room. And he notices a middle-aged man coming into that room. And then that middle-aged man gets undressed and gets redressed into quote-unquote women's clothes. And here I am, this little, 14-year-old kid, going, oh, my God, how do I get to New York? And those of you who read it, do you remember what happens next? It's a miracle. J.D. Salinger is a genius. Nothing happens. Nothing, really. Holden's like, oh, all right. And we move on with the story. That character isn't the butt of a joke. They're not a serial killer. They're not a monster. they're just another person in a room across the way, and we move on with the story. And I think for me, that was the first time I saw a little bit of myself reflected back at me, where I wasn't evil, I wasn't a monster. And maybe that gave me a little bit more hope, or maybe I could be me. So maybe that's my first positive experience with being LGBTQ. So I've given you enough time to think about your name, your pronouns, your job title, and maybe a story. So in groups of 3 or so, 3 or 4, take the next 5 or 6 minutes. Do I have 5 minutes?
You can have 5 minutes.
All right, we got 5 minutes to do just what I just did with your group and listen and pay attention. Great, thank you.
That's how I would do it.
We can't see your pronouns. We're not with you. That's group of 3. We're line 3. Because there's so much of me. I'll take 2. I don't even know this about it. Fine. You don't get to know mine either. Yes. I'm Kyla.
I love that you're talking. That's wonderful. And engaging with each other, and I think that's really important. So I do want to put a pause on that right now. You're not supposed to pump your brakes anymore. With all this technology and brakes, you're supposed to just press the brake. And it comes for you, but I grew up with not that, so I still like pump. You do it. You're not supposed to pump your brakes.
Right. So I build up the pressure.
You feel it sometimes. So really quickly, thank you for doing that, one. For those of you in the room, how many of you had never shared your pronouns out loud before? All right, there's your Mean Girls moment. A few hands went up. So for those of you who are new, you no longer pronoun virgins, so congratulations, mazel tov. Hope it was good for you. Hope it was consensual. You weren't coerced in any way. But for the newbies, how did you feel? Weird. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. Anyone else? Yes.
I felt okay with it because Addie's like my friend and very like a safe person.
Uh-huh.
But I feel like if I was in a different environment or room, I would feel uncomfortable saying that out loud.
Yes. Thank you. Anyone else have some feelings come up? Strange. Yeah.
You know, it's not unnecessary.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that.
Unnecessary.
Thank you. Other observations from some of the newer folks on what that felt like to say out loud? Go ahead.
I forgot because I don't need you in my life. You know, it's not
You
something.
forgot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I'm talking.
You wish I had a cheat sheet up there for you.
I know, right? It would have been handy.
Not my pronoun. I need to write them on my phone.
Oh, that's funny.
Right. Those are all. You have something, please.
I was just going to say, I think it kind of felt liberating.
Oh.
Because when you're talking to somebody else and they do identify, because one of the stories was that somebody presented as female, cis woman, and when they went to speak, they misidentified, and she actually wanted to be called a he. So I think in a conversation, if somebody does identify as one,
Yeah.
but they say, no, I go by him or he,
Mhm.
then no.
Yeah. Thank you. I mean, I appreciate the honesty around that. Clearly, especially that's really great. Like, yeah, you feel comfortable doing that there, but in a group of people you don't know, right? You are taking some chances. You're putting yourself out there. And I love that what you said, you've taken it for granted for so long, right? It's something you haven't had to deal with. It's been your privilege. Your gender has been your privilege, and you haven't had to really think about it. You put it in your back pocket, and you walk around with it, right? If it's a condom, it's in your back pocket for a long time, don't use it. You absolutely. But, right, there's a privilege to that versus folks who have been trying to figure that out or trying to assert their identity where you haven't even had to deal with that. I think that's really important. as well. Did you want to add?
Yeah, I just want to say that when you just said that about it's your privilege, like everything connected to me.
Yep.
In that concept. Like, I was really looking forward to learning and stuff like that, but when you said, like, if I had to name my pronouns, they would both be female, I feel fine female, grew up female. And I never thought about it. I never had to think about any of this, and how freaking confusing could it be if I did have to think about it? Like, so I appreciate, like, the language you just used around that, because I wasn't connected all the dots, so I heard it, like, kind of in a white privilege term.
Yep.
Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you. Yes.
I just wanted to say, so in the work that I do, a lot of times I identify myself as a person in long-term recovery. And so, you know, now that I'm hearing this, maybe I should be saying, my name is Polly, I identify, or my pronouns are she, her, and then the long-term recovery, and then I can work on that with everybody, because then people will ask about it, and so then to talk about it more, because it's a constant, it's a comfortable thing to say I'm in recovery, but it's not, it hasn't been comfortable enough to say what my pronouns are, so how cool is that?
Right. For those of you in recovery, has it, I mean, I'm assuming that was not early at the very beginning to say it out loud.
No.
That was the first couple of times to say, hey, this is who I am, I'm an addict, I'm in recovery, whatever you were using at that time. It took you some time to get to that place, to own that, and so think of, own it. And when you do that, you're being vulnerable, and people are going to make assumptions about you. And I think Nico and I were talking about that, about how do you let people make assumptions about you without not allowing it get to you. So people may think you're part of the community. Be guilty by association if you share your pronouns. Right? Someone may think, if you share your pronouns, they may think, oh, they're trans. Or they're part of the community. I'm like, all right. So are you willing to take that risk? Are you willing to align yourself as an ally, as an accomplice with the community by sharing your pronouns? I mean, in the end, is it really going to hurt you? Are you losing anything in doing that? But think about the gains you get from doing it. You're building relationships and creating an avenue for conversation? Absolutely. And then you're inviting more people into the circle. Yes, some people are going to be like, what the fuck are you talking about? But I think more and more people are going to sort of speak up. And so part 2 of this, did you want to add before I get to part 2?
Yeah, I
Please.
just want to say I've done a lot of work with families, with parents, and when I use my pronouns, it may not directly affect them, but with their children, right? So they recognize that it's a safe place for them to talk about their potentially non-binary children.
Yes,
Right?
right.
So I could look out my room and go, I kind of got this figured out, right? I don't need to use pronouns, but as soon as I open up and I show that I'm aware and conscious of this, it has helped parents be able to then open up and talk more openly about their kids.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. It's a really, and I think that connects to part 2 of this, was sharing a positive experience with the community. Right? We interrupted what seemed like really healthy, active conversations about a topic on LGBTQ. How often do you sit around the table at work talking about queer things in a happy, healthy, empowering way? Right? We don't. We shy away from it because it's quote-unquote controversial. We're not allowed to talk about sexuality and gender. But you just did it. And, you know, you actually enjoyed it. It brought up feelings for some of you, because some of those are, like, really important people in your life. And you all had a connection. And I think we all make judgments and prejudge people in the surroundings, the people we work with. Oh, they're not going to get it. They're not going to understand if I talk about gender or sexuality. They're whatever. I don't want to use any slurs, but they're that type of person, right? And you just disproved it all. You all have a connection. In fact, virtually everyone I talked to, like 4,000 people last year, everyone had a connection to the community. Mostly everyone had a positive connection to the community. Yet they were never given the opportunity to, in a safe way, talk about their brother, their aunt, their son, their daughter, their non-binary child, because they're afraid of how people may respond to that, right? So be aware that virtually everyone you're going to interact with has a connection and probably many positive connections to the community. And just doing that step into that, you're creating that opportunity where that other person can say, yes, actually, this is appropriate. We should be talking about this. What about pronouns? Why not? So that's kind of why we do that too, because there's some really crappy data too, but it's nice to share the positive aspects of being queer. I love being queer. I wouldn't trade it for the world. You couldn't give me $1 million to not be who I am. It's been hard and horrible, but it's totally worth every minute, right? And I'm part of a beautiful, amazing community, right? And I think we should celebrate that, not run away from it. Am I up? Do I have to do this? Okay, really quickly.
Oh, yeah, we only have like 20.
Yeah, I'm going to wrap this. Just as some really new data came out recently by some national groups about how do we talk about this in rural spaces. And does anyone work in a rural space? Yeah, okay. Many of you work in rural spaces. And in fact, most people in northern New England live in rural northern New England, including queer people. We don't all just move to Provincetown or Gunquit or Manchester, right? We live everywhere. We live in Bethlehem and Littleton, right? And all the little towns, Plymouth, every little town in between, little farms, we're everywhere. We're taking over. That's right. And I think that's really important to recognize. But there are some challenges to rural spaces. Limited resources create challenges. When you only have one health center in that town, and maybe you, as a queer person, I had a bad experience there and I got misgendered, maybe I don't want to go back for some of the most basic healthcare needs, right? I heard someone say something bad there, and I'm going to forego my annual treatment. I'm not even going to get my flu shot this year. Or maybe I got a really bad cut, but I don't want to go to the ER anymore because they treated me poorly. Or when you have limited resources and for support and something goes wrong, I'm probably just going to forget it. Right? And folks go like 100 miles out of their way, 200 miles out of the way to go somewhere completely else and have to take a day off of work to get the care that they really need. So be aware of that. Increase visibility. Some folks will work really hard to blend in and not be seen, but not everyone has that privilege, nor should they have to. So there's a little less anonymity in rural spaces. We're going to stand out maybe a little bit more. So how do you align yourself, or how do you as an agency in your community, we're going to talk about this, align yourself with the most marginalized people, especially the folks who are most visible, so they don't feel so alone in those spaces. That's a challenge. But we also know, just because it's small and rural, doesn't mean it has to be negative. I think there's this urban-rural myth that urban is accepting and rural is unaccepting. Don't accept that. Because rural towns and small towns, because things can change quickly. With a few key people making really significant strides and speaking up and speaking out on behalf of community members, small towns can embrace a marginalized community faster than a larger community. Right? We talk a lot about community involvement and community support for marginalized communities. And small towns can actually flip really quickly and embrace marginalized communities, especially LGBT folks. And so I travel all across northern New England, and there are wonderfully supportive small towns all across northern New England. And then you have some really shitty towns. I'm like, what's the difference? A few key people standing up and saying, you know what? They're part of our community. They're part of our family. We care about them. And that has a really big impact, for sure. And you know that everyone has a connection. So that's important, too. All right, I'm going to give this right back to Nick because you're probably tired of me talking.
All right, thank you. So now what I'll come here for is, this stuff and how does it relate to our work, right? So I said before, trauma is the true gateway drug. I got that from Russell Brand. And he's a person in long-term recovery. And he's the one that is always saying trauma is the gateway. It's being abused. It's having depression. It's having anxiety. That is the thing that's going to lead you into substance abuse. So my community is twice as likely as the straight community to have tried any illicit drug The national average is about 9%. In the queer community, it is 20 to 30%. We start at a young age, too, when it comes to binge drinking and doing drugs. We start, on average, about 2 years younger than people who identify as straight. So, yeah, and substance abuse, 90% in teens, in queer teens. Huge number. Because it's usually, when you're a teenager, it's usually like you got 4 burnouts, and those are the people in high school. You don't talk to them unless you need that good weed. And, but like in the LGBTQ community, especially when you're a teenager, it's really difficult to find someone who hasn't done any drugs. And so if you're trying to like stay away from that, it's hard to do it in your own community. It's literally everywhere. I'll share with this really briefly. So Halloween is sort of like our gay Christmas. And so when I'm back home in San Diego, in Hillcrest, if I want to see a 6-foot-tall man in giant angel wings and booty shorts, I can go to Hillcrest on Halloween, definitely be there. But there'll also be a bunch of people in ecstasy. There will be a bunch of people doing coke in the bathrooms. There's a lot of stuff going on. We make up about 12 to 15% of the population in the United States, but only 8% of the treatment programs are geared directly towards us. We already know how hard it is for people to get into programs. It's way harder if you're queer. There's not a lot of people that are making their facilities, their centers, more queer inclusive. So we also have a higher percentage of different underlying mental disorders. And then the other barriers for our treatment might be homophobia, transphobia, family problems, violence, and social isolation. So we are more likely not to have family support. We are more likely to have something else doing, like a home situation. A lot of us have been kicked out of our homes when we come out. A lot of us have to deal with physical abuse for being queer, especially if you're talking about LGBTQ youth. Because I can go, when my family members are being crazy and they're getting down on me, I could just be like deuces and leave. I'm almost 35 years old. I have my own apartment. I can go do that. That is my privilege. Young kids, people in their 20s, people who rely on family support don't have that. They have to stay there. They have to endure it. So what's in a name? I like Naked Gun. That's where that quote came from. So Shirley, you can't be serious. I am serious, and don't call me Shirley. Roger. So the support is needed. We're 14 more times likely to have suicidal ideation. We're 22 times more likely to attempt suicide in our lifetimes. My gender dysphoria, for when I was going through school, it led me to be incredibly suicidal. I will never feel right in this body. Why should I even try? Society will never accept me for who I am. Why should I even try? I was 7 when Matthew Shepard happened. I was 22 when California said, yeah, you could totally have gay marriage, and then took it away. My whole life, I've been told that I am not allowed in these spaces. I can't be happy. You're not allowed to marry. You can't wear pants. We're going to call you by your dead name. It's a lot. It makes you want to check out. I'm going to be really honest with you guys. There are times even now when I even say that I will be okay. I am someone who is in their mid-30s. I have a good job. I have a good support system. There are still even times where I think, is it worth it? Can I do this for another 30 years? Can I endure this for the rest of my life? The answer is always yes so far when I've asked those questions, but it does get hard. So we're all about saving lives. I hear that for everybody. We're in the business of saving lives. That's where we are. So I'm going to say this in language that we can all accept. Using the correct pronouns, using someone's name will save lives. Misgendering and using the incorrect pronouns is killing people. That is a reality. So we're 71% less, 71% will experience like less symptoms of severe depression when you're using our names and pronouns. There will be a decrease in suicidal thoughts and a reduction in suicidal attempts. And if you use someone's correct name, you also will decrease their chances of suicide, dying by suicide. It's really important. I know that Gia talked about the pronouns and the names. I'm going to stress this. It is super, super, super important. And I don't mean that like you guys are going to get this, like that's why the packet that I put together says know better, do better. The last part of that is fail better. I know that mistakes will be made. You guys are not perfect. We just jumped a lot onto you in 2 hours. I just want you guys to go out there and fail better. And keep on learning, keep on failing better. You're gonna get better at this. I still misgender myself sometimes. I've only been dealing with Nick since June. Doris is the one that drove me down to probate court, where I had to sit in front of a judge and say, I would like to change my name to Nico Arasaka Campan because it better defines my gender identity. I would be better suited to that name. No, I am not hiding from any debts. I do not have any crimes. I didn't have to put my name in the newspaper, though. I did have to pay about $150. In California, that price is $400. Imagine doing that like on a minimum wage salary, like just trying to like put that money aside. Like even for me to put $150 aside, like I could have bought a PlayStation, you guys. Like, instead I changed my name. We're just gonna do they, them pronouns. I know that people are fairly new to the singular they, so am I, even though I use it. So it's another really brief video on they, them pronouns.
Are hard to start, but easy to master. You actually probably use them without even realizing. For example, imagine someone knocks at your door. You might say, someone's at the door, and in response, what do they want? Here the parent has addressed the person at the door with they. Of course, we have no knowledge of the person's gender, and therefore have no reason to attach a more boxed pronoun such as he or she to them. Now, to get more comfortable with using they, them pronouns, become more aware of when you use pronouns day to day. A lot of the time, people make assumptions based on certain physical looks, gestures, and mannerisms to calculate their own preconceived idea of someone's gender. Wouldn't it be easier just to use they, them until you have the chance to personally ask what pronouns they use? This avoids accidentally calling, for example, a person she, when in actuality he prefers he, him. Oftentimes, I'll introduce myself by saying my pronouns. This encourages the other to do the same. They, them pronouns can be used outside of people as well. Whoa, look at that dog. I think they're a bulldog mix. Lastly, know that some people don't mind using more than one set of pronouns. In those instances, it's most common for you just to use them interchangeably. But in the end, remember that it's okay to mess up. We've all been there. Just move on from it and try again next time.
Right. Cancel. Okay, there we go. Cool, we got it.
Now everyone, what?
Oh, yes. Z, her. Okay, so there's Z, zer, I think is, it's part of, I think they're called neo-pronouns. So a neo-pronoun is basically a new pronoun. So neo means new, there could be Z, zer, or fe, fer is another one. There's a bunch of them. They're usually used as neutral pronouns or gender neutral pronouns. So someone who identifies as non-binary or gender neutral might use a neo-pronoun. Yeah. But for the most part, we like to, because again, people who are non-binary, at least the ones that I talk to in my community, and I have like a bunch of little gabies that I protect, they're mine, they're in my pack. So we like to use she, her, he, him, because those help you guys. And we want to continue to have relationships with you. If you're not being openly homophobic and not being really, really violently caustic, we want to continue those relationships with you guys. So when I say something like, I use she, her, or they, them, it's to make people feel comfortable. That she, her part is for you guys. I don't particularly feel attached to the she, her. I just use it because most people are comfortable with it. I would prefer they, them. I would prefer to be more gender neutral. I would prefer to be seen as more androgynous, even though I identify as a lesbian. So, yeah, hope that answers you.
Yeah, thank you.
I think that's, yes, all right.
Thank you. Before we get into this, someone had a question about worried about making mistakes and saying the wrong thing. Has anyone avoided saying something because they're afraid of saying the wrong? Maybe a few of you. Regardless of the conversation, and it can be about all sorts of areas. It could be about race, it could be about LGBTQ issues, it could be about religion, where you really don't want to offend somebody, so you don't say anything. And then what does that really get you? It creates a bubble and then distance between you and that person or that community. And maybe you're safer, right, for that short term. And so it happens all the time. I know in my family, when I started coming out and transitioning 10 years ago, I think they felt the same thing. And they didn't want to talk about it or ask me questions about it because I think they were afraid they were going to offend me. I misinterpreted that. I interpreted that they didn't care or really love me anymore. And all they wanted to do was talk about the Patriots. I mean, I kind of like the Patriots, but there's more to me than Tom Brady and Giselle. Now, that would be interesting. That trinity right there. Let's see how that looks. Some people are nodding their head.
I ship it.
So I think part of this is leaning into it. And I think something about failure. Did you have that expression? What was that again, Nick?
Know better, do better, feel better.
Yeah, and I think willing to fall on your face a little bit is actually you're gonna grow more, right? Getting a few skins on your knees here, making mistakes is actually gonna help you grow and learn. And people are gonna appreciate that you're trying versus having that, I don't want to say the wrong thing. Say something. And if it's the wrong thing, someone will tell you, and you'll learn from it. But if you don't even try, you're not going to learn from it either. And you're really not going to get hurt, for sure, right? I do want to talk a little bit about your agencies, and we developed this in conjunction with the Maine Coalition Against Sexual Assault. Some of the language on here is based on that work we did a few years ago with all the sexual assault centers in Maine. And then we're going to do a little activity, and I think there's a handout in your packet that addresses some of these things. So, we've already talked a lot about gender-inclusive language. Really, if you have some agency at your agency, hey, how about that? Even if you don't have agency at your agency, really scan through it to make sure the language you are all using in print or the way you're talking with everybody is inclusive of everybody. And that can be hard for those of us who grew up in a very sort of traditional patriarchal society, especially Catholic. There's very sort of hierarchies of language. Or if you were in the military, or you lived in the South, like I lived in Georgia, and everyone was ma'am this and ma'am that, and sir, yes, ma'am, absolutely. And so can you just take a step back from that and think about how we talk about hello people, hello folks, rather than some of the traditional things around language. I think that is really important. And look through when we're talking about relationships. Do you have a partner? Those things are really important versus do you have a husband? You're making a big assumption, right? So how can you start to talk about, is there someone in your life? Do you have a partner? Do you have multiple partners? Because many folks are in poly relationships, and maybe they have multiple partners. Yes?
I just wanted to share a quick story. So recently I went...
Tell me your name again.
Hi, Jenny.
Hi, Jenny.
My pronouns are
Jenny.
she, her, and hers.
Thank you.
I recently went to Solana's transgender advocacy training.
Can you speak up a little bit?
Yeah, sure. I recently just went to Kalana's transgender advocacy training, and I made a horrible mistake, which was what I had noticed after just my conditioning. I was having a conversation with a couple, and I said, and we started talking about our kids, and I was like, oh, do you have a boy or a girl? And I was like, and she was like, no, so we're parents of a transgender child. And I was just like, wow, I'm an a-hole. Like, I'm in the room full of, supporters and advocates for this community, and I'm one of them, and I made that mistake. But it was a learning experience for me, and it showed me how I have been plagued by plagued by ignorance and being conditioned. So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you. What was the time on that?
Like 5 more minutes to talk about this.
Okay, and then
we'll
an
jump
activity.
into the-
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and my partner has a child, and they're non-binary, and they use they, them, but they get that question, oh, are they a boy or girl? None of the above.
Right. So son or daughter, dear? Son or daughter? What's the?
Do you have any children?
I do, and I have, so Mackenzie's non-binary, gender fluid.
Yeah.
But I always want to talk about them by saying my son, and then I go, nope, can't do that.
Yeah.
So I always say like my offspring, my adult child, so I don't know what to say. So I just say Mackenzie.
I honestly, I like offspring, that's cool. It's like Mackenzie's like your biology experiment, like that's super awesome.
Right, so I don't know what to say. I don't ever know what to say.
And I also like partner too, because it's like super ambiguous, like are we a couple, like are we partners in crime, like, are we on a dude ranch, like that's super awesome.
Dude ranch? That's hot.
But offspring is super cool. Honestly, asking those questions, my family's sort of like the Brady Bunch. My mom has 3 children, my dad has three children, I'm the only overlap. So I have 2 siblings that I didn't meet until I was 30. And when I started this, started going by Nick and identifying as non-binary, I was 31. So none of these people knew me as my other name or as a child or anything like that. And it was actually my brother Carrington that came up and said, is it okay that I still call you my sister? And I was like, Carrington fucking gets it. Like, gold star, he's my favorite brother. Like, I have 3. I don't know how the other 2 are going to feel about that, but they're just not putting in that kind of work. That's all I'm saying. So for me, that was like awesome. I was like, of course you can still call me your sister. That's amazing. Thank you for asking. Like, so my mom still refers to me as her daughter. I'm still totally okay with that, but that's my personal. That's me personally.
Yeah.
If she wanted to start calling me her like offspring, that's cool. Like her adult child, that's super cool too. I'd be down with it. But I would talk to Mackenzie.
And they don't care.
Okay, so
Yeah.
They don't care, but.
Yeah, I think that's a really good question, and there are people coming up with new terms like nibbling,
I like
knuffling,
kidlet is really
kiblet, for like
good,
different like non-binary nieces or nephews, so nibbling or aunts and uncles, or even like grandparents, like, or parents being mop. There's a whole bunch of different ways you can come up with different language. It's really. There are opportunities, they're limitless. And then title, MX, I think we talked a little bit about that MX is a pretty more common title instead of Mr. or Ms. is recognizing that not everyone uses those titles, and be aware of using that if you don't know that person. If you don't know them, once again, don't make those assumptions, but some people use MX instead of MR or MS.
MX?
MX, yeah. Mix.
Yeah, it stands for mixture.
Yeah.
And I have a cis woman, my best friend from like way back in the day. She really loves mixture. That's like her favorite thing. She wants to start using that as her title.
Yeah. Who wouldn't? Cool.
And I'm like, whatever, cool,
Yeah.
it's awesome. Like, because honestly, cis straight people, you guys are going to help us the most. We need accomplices. We need someone to like check their friends. Hey, that wasn't really cool. I'm gonna put Jamie on the spot because he's here and I get to tell on him. Yesterday, somebody said, I don't look gay. Why would someone assume that I'm gay? I don't look gay. I was there. I was very offended, but I was silent because it's not my place, and I've gotten in trouble being the PC police at my center. So I was very, very silent, right? But I, microaggression logged in the brain. Jamie goes, whoa. First of all, you don't just look gay. That's impossible, and that's really rude. And the guy was like, oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. I shouldn't have said that. You're right. That was really rude. Jamie is as cis-het as they get, you know what I mean? So, and he's a pillar in his community, and when Jamie says something, as opposed to, oh, there goes Nick again, that gay stuff is just a hot-button issue for her, it comes a little bit different than, you can't mistake Jamie for anything other than what he is, and so when he comes to you and he says, hey, that's not cool, bro, they're more likely to listen. Yeah, I need, seriously, we need accomplices. We need someone who's gonna, drive the getaway car as I'm, running outside of a clinic with, 2 months worth of herd for everybody in the community. Those are the kind of people that we need.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, I think that ties in exactly to how do we create those spaces at work in our spaces is really not leaning and depending on the queer folk to do all the work and the heavy lifting. I mean, you're all more than capable of speaking up, right? Because we're, living it 24/7, where maybe you are not. And so you have the ability to do that. And so that's why when we talk about how do you make your agency more inclusive, yes, definitely language, but also being the accomplice is a newer word. Maybe you're not familiar. We've gone from ally, aligning yourself next to, but how can you activate that and be an accomplice, which is a more activated language. Direct services, making sure that if you're going to be referring people to different services, whether it's medical or whatever that is, making sure that the person that you're sending them to in an affirming place. Don't send them, make sure you're sending them to a place where they're going to be affirmed for who they are. You don't want to make the situation worse. So if you need to do some research on your own, figure out, are they inclusive? Have they done any trainings like this at their clinic? Do they have a symbol of inclusion that they've done some work before you send them that way? I think that is really important. So definitely some more things and some of the little things you can do that you probably have seen or probably already doing, whether that's your pronouns on your name tag. I wrote my pronouns on my name tag when I got in here today. It's a very subtle way without shouting out loud. Maybe you're not ready to say she, her, but maybe you could put your pronouns on a name tag, right? That's a subtle way so the people that really need to see that are going to see that, right? Maybe even in your email signature where you have your pronouns underneath your name. Again, another way to put that out to the community that you're someone who is on board. And then having that explanation on your website. We do this because, and really make it clear for people. We do this because we are an inclusive agency, and we don't want to make assumptions about people, and especially their gender identity or sexual orientation. So you can do those things, for sure. Make sure you are following all the different social medias out there that relate to the LGBTQ community, right? In turn, people are going to see and drive activity around that. You'll get to understand what's going on, share that information for the people you are supporting. Hey, I heard there's an event happening tomorrow night. There's a support group, there's a parade, whatever. There's a chem-free event, for queer folk. Would you like to go? So there's different ways you can look at how you can change your agency for sure. And if you're talking about scenarios, we do a lot of role playing and stuff. Make sure that you're introducing different types of gender and relationships in your role playing, or even in the stories and examples that are used at your agency, for sure. We talk a lot about support groups in Maine, especially in intimate partner violence or sexual assault. Traditionally, they were all sort of female, women-centric, but how do we look at that and unpack that a little bit to recognize that everyone is impacted by intimate partner violence and sexual assault and substance use, right? Probably not as gendered as much in the substance use community versus sexual assault and domestic violence, but making sure you're not falling back to those things you were taught or those patterns that are probably just entrenched, that have been copied and pasted all along. What can we do to sort of upset that a little bit and make sure you're doing that and being clear about it? And if you have a gendered group, make sure you're being intentional about saying all women, right, if that's what it is. And folks who identify as women, just be really intentional about that, for what that looks like. Agency material, and it could be really subtle stuff. Rainbows are really easy, but what else can you do in terms of your agency material? Even if you have a waiting room, I noticed this as one of my therapist's office, which she shares with 10 other therapists. I walk in addition to having Main magazine and whatever, this design magazine and People, they also have a few queer magazines in there too, to make me feel like, oh, someone took that extra step to let people know that I'm welcome in here, that isn't just the cishet, and I like that they keep saying cishet, cisgender and heterosexual normative that where most of us were raised with. How do we sort of interrupt that a little bit? And make sure the pictures you're showing depict people of different relationships and different genders, right? So people see themselves reflected back in the care you're trying to give. That really helps affirm who they are as people. So there are many different ways you can do that. Make gender-neutral bathrooms available to clients and community partners. You know, I walked in here today, and I'm always spying on like spaces. And maybe there is a gender-neutral bathroom in this building. I don't know. I didn't see one. I saw gendered bathrooms right there. Those are the only two options. And so what if I walk in here and I don't fit those categories? Where do I go? I don't go. Or maybe I'm going to risk it and go in one of them. Or maybe I'll ask a friend to go in with me in case something should happen or I get attacked or someone challenges my validity of being in there. Okay? And so be aware of what facilities you have in your spaces too, right? You can say you're inclusive, but are you really inclusive? You know, this past year in Maine, we actually made it state law that every single-use restroom in a public space has to be all gender. You can no longer have single-sex, single-use restrooms in the state of Maine in any public building. So anyone can use it. What does it matter anyway, right? So what are you doing on some of the physical attributes of your buildings if you're able to make your space more accessible to people? Because that's a lot of anxiety. I remember when I first started transitioning, I was so afraid to go in this restroom or that restroom. And I can't imagine what it's like to be in that androgynous space or non-binary when that's your world every day and everything is so fucking gender. Forget it. It's too late for that. So we do want to take a few minutes to do some action planning. Am I introducing this? Or do you want to
I
introduce?
can introduce it.
Great, Melissa's going to do that.
So we have a little worksheet in your packet. It has these 3 questions on it, and I have one in front of me. Like this, and I took Dia's ideas for creating a welcoming environment on here.
Go out that door. Okay, it's kind of
And just,
right there on the left.
in your small groups or individually, kind of looking at your and reflecting on your organization. So, what does your agency or practice currently do to be inclusive and welcoming to the LGBTQ community? Specifics of what you do. What else can your agency or practice do to be more inclusive? What are some of the ideas that you heard today that you could add easily to your organization? And then just personally, both privately or out publicly, what can you do to be more inclusive? So we're going to give folks like 8 minutes or so to kind of work through those questions, and then we're going to bring it back and share out kind of some of the things that people have identified as action steps to be more inclusive.
I know at 77 there's all gender bathrooms. But there are still
Men and women.
Yeah, so there's
Men, and then there's women, and then there's.
so there is still a distinction. It's not truly inclusive.
Right.
So one thing that I forgot to do here that I said on my email signature, which I usually do, is I know that just it's like, you're welcome here. I'm okay with whatever.
Yes, it becomes important.
My brother-in-law went to the doorway. Oh, good. He is talking currently right now. My sister's brother-in-law. And so, to the doorway, I was like, yeah, which one? Went with, nice. Yeah, it's a big deal. I told her, he's like, I'll come over, but I need to make sure, like, I'll come ask my sister if it's okay. She's like, you don't need to ask your sister. We already talked about it, and it's fine for you to help them. We don't want to push them. I was like, I'm available tonight. If you want me to stop by, this is kind of what I do for a living. I'm happy to help these families. So we're just going to let him. But he's currently doing $2,000 fentanyl in like a week. His mom died. It's bad. So we've been actually working for a while to get to this point. Man, I prayed my ass off this morning too.
Me too, but I still didn't win the Mega Millions last night.
Not God's will. Not God's will.
You can't ask God for money.
I do it daily.
Don't tell me what you ask God for.
I know, very presumptuous.
He just might decide. So all Lena
Not supposed to ask God for money. What if you're gonna give God back some money? No, that's different. You give it to me, I'll give you back some.
Although that sounds like a term that I would think of. That's not a bad idea.
You want to make it sound one.
Root that for
for people. That's part of it too. You don't want to perpetuate that
Lena likes her social media ideas. She's including it herself in the group right now.
Oh, yeah. Add it to your work plan, Lana.
Oh, we get someone
I don't know if I'm gonna go back up in my office now. I have to go.
All right, we need
to drop, and
we need to come back together. And I'm looking at the berries. I get to say I like your berries.
Yeah, I like your berries.
Nice. What we'd like to do, we have a few minutes, not a lot of time. Hopefully this was helpful for you to sort of at least reflect a little bit about your own practice and your agency, where you work. We can't go each into any one of these. We do have to move on in about 4 to 5 minutes. I want to make sure we get to Polly's presentation on self-care. But I'd love to hear from at least some things from what you're already doing, maybe 1 or 2 from this, of what some things you've come up with, and some personal challenges for yourself, because I think that is part of it too. And then some folks already had some really wonderfully complex questions that we want to push back out to you as well. So is there a really cool example that you heard from somebody that someone's already doing in this room? What are you already doing that is being inclusive that you heard, that you shared? Yes.
We use pronouns on our emails and all of our business cards.
Oh, and business cards. Yeah. Great. Thank you. So that's an example of someone already doing that in practice. So consider another thing that someone's already doing that you thought was worthwhile. Yeah.
On our employment application, which I just filled out anew, they have a bunch of different options as opposed to
More options than just the traditional male and female. Good. Anything else in this category where people are already doing some things that we want to raise up? Go ahead.
So I work in a all women's program. but we're inclusive so that if somebody was, transgender or something, they would be welcome to come if they had children, because it's a women and children program.
Got it.
But, I think that one thing that we try to do when things like this come up within our groups is to educate our patients, to think about their biases and their discriminatory thinking. We really try to do that anytime the subject comes up.
That's really important. Tell me your name again.
My name is Sherry.
Sherry. So I think that's part of it. We can do our really great job educating each other, the coworkers, but what are we doing to make sure, are we able to educate folks who are accessing services too at the same time? Absolutely, because they're going to come in with their own stuff. Right. All right, let's move on. What are some things you all came up with that are like next steps or first steps for you in terms of making your agency and space more inclusive? What'd you come up with? What's some suggestions?
We're going to add our pronouns to our ID badges.
You are?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Great, and one of the things I would recommend with that, and with any time you're going to add pronouns, and I go back and forth on this, should they really be permanent, or they should be more able to switch, right? Because I know some folks may want to switch, and they may seem like it's a burden to get all the new name tags printed again, right? So is there a way to do the name tag thing where it can be a sticker, where I can, like, today you know me as she, her, but maybe tomorrow I want to be he, him, and I can just put a new sticker on my name tag. It's going to take a lot less time than sending these out to the printer. But if you can print them, great. Just be aware of any, like, hurdles that keep people from getting their name tag changed. You know, I have one that's engraved on a thing, and it's like, that's going to take time and money to update that. So, great suggestion. Other suggestions?
I was going to share someone on the phone said that they have a flag on the front window, a rainbow flag, and then they have an AA open door LGBTQ meeting specifically on Tuesday evening from 6 to 7 p.m. at Hope in Manchester.
Great. So great. Thank you on the phone for bringing that in and flagging that for us. How could I resist? Sorry. But again, groups that are actually for the community can be really healthy for community members to connect with one another, because we have such a shared experience around trauma. That idea of having a queer AA program, great. Other things you came up with to make your agency more inclusive? Yeah,
I
again.
like the idea of having a symbol of inclusion, like we should have one in our waiting room.
Yeah.
So that, I'm going to take that back.
A visual, something that is symbolic.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so be aware of, like, in addition to rainbow, what other things, is it the trans flag? Are you aware of some of the other insignia that goes with part of the LGBTQ community in addition to the rainbow? For sure. And there's some newer ways of making that rainbow flag with racial components to it, too, for sure. Any other options on making your agency more inclusive that you came up with? Yes, Polly.
I'm going to make sure we're in the middle of doing a new training, developing the new training, and I'm going to make sure the language in that is
great. Super. You know, one of the things that you can do, if you don't have the space capacity to do, I'll get to you. I saw your hand. Full trainings. If you have time to do the full training, great. If you could sprinkle it in, adding some of the language parts. We do some cross training when we do the annual sexual assault training, and we do fold in a little overlap where LGBTQ awareness and sexual assault interact with one another. How does that work together? So if someone's misgendering somebody, that could be construed as sexual harassment and creating a work environment that is hostile. So where do those two worlds intersect? So maybe you can't get the full training on LGBTQ, but maybe you can put it in when you're doing another training. Do you have something as well?
Yeah, I mean, our center is already very much inclusive, people know that, but if you get somebody that comes through the door that might initially come through the door because they see everything that's posted on front, but then they're hesitant to really talk about it. We're talking about adding more layers, like with our intake packets, our volunteer packets, more questioning that shows that we're truly open to it. It might help engage conversation with people that are hesitant to share. Yep. So we're going to probably do that.
Thank you. Great. I know this group had a question. Do you want to try to share that with the group?
Sure.
And then if you have answers, we may not get to the answers right now, but I think they're looking for a solution to this issue. Go ahead.
So we do a lot of our one-on-one coaching behind closed doors, and I don't know how many other centers do that. But so right now we recognize that we're making assumptions by pairing
somebody with what gender we identify them as, so we will change that. But our question becomes, how do we make sure that we are being inclusive in pairing our coaches with same-gender participants while still maintaining safety for, am I phrasing it correctly?
Well, it's safety, and that safety has different layers, like where,
I
or
think you
with
just
different,
touched on,
yeah.
like sexual assault, past and histories, and so we want to be recognize someone's sexual trauma history, recognize the gender that they identify as, and also have safety in behind closed doors.
And recognizing the risk with somebody suggesting, oh, I work better with men, or I work better with women, and trying to figure out, is it our role to try to figure out what their intentions are? Can they be manipulative with men or women or both? And so I guess, out of lack of knowledge, ignorance, if you will, how do you just stay safe and go with that, but yet be inclusive and be aware that it's, and without making assumptions, it's like a lot, it's really complex.
And go.
And solutions.
So that's one of those, we get that a lot, is what do? We want to be recognized as some safety issues potentially here. There's a gender awareness around this, but we also recognize that there's more than gender than these two options as well. Right? So those are the things sitting around the table at your agency. We want to address this more openly, so how do we talk about this? Because we want to be more inclusive. So if you do have solutions, you're already encountering that, I'm not going to answer them. Please bring it to this group. I've gone way over time. Hopefully some of you came up with some personal challenges for yourself. Think about those as well, not just your agency, but what else can you do as a person publicly, being visible out there in the world, or with your family at those family discussions. Hey, guess what? We had this conversation today over at the fire training station about gender. Bring it into your living room. I think it'd be really helpful. All right, I'm going to give it back to...
I just wanted to add, real quick, sorry. If anyone has any other questions about this topic, and any questions that didn't get answered today, any questions that come up, and if you're implementing these policies, I'm going to tell you my email address. It's my first and last name @gmail.com, all lowercase. Please send me your questions. I will gladly answer them. And yeah, that's it. Yes.
I just want to say that I really appreciate this training. I have a daughter who identifies as a woman, but looks like a boy, and she's had a lot of problems in her life because of that, and this really helped me understand her and where she's coming from, her addiction, and, a lot of the ways that I try to be as, I never made her feel bad or anything like that. She came to me when she was 7, and at that point, I pretty much knew that she, liked women or girls, and, but it just really helps me understand her life a lot better.
Awesome, that is awesome. You're welcome. I mean, everybody should clap about that. That's amazing. My mom is also incredibly open. We grew up in a very gay part of California, in San Diego specifically. It was very, very inclusive and affirming to the LGBT community. My mom is the sweetest person in the entire universe, even if she was someone with a heinous drug addiction when I was younger. That being said, she tries really hard too, and she's still gonna make mistakes. She's 65. I just let her. I'm just but when she called me Nico for the first time, I almost broke down. That was, I will get teary-eyed just thinking about it right now, but it was amazing. My mom named me Tiffany. If anyone is gonna have a issue with me changing my name, it's gonna be her. My dad is cool with it because he's Rick and I'm Nick, and that's awesome for him. He's super down for that. But my mom, she could have objected. She gave me that name, and she's just goodbye, Nico, the love of my life. I was I love this woman. She's amazing. So that's awesome. I'm glad. I'm really glad.
And I just want to thank Gia and Nick so wholeheartedly for sharing their personal and professional experiences and wealth of knowledge. I learned a lot, and I hope everyone else did too. So I want to thank you. And thank you all for being open and asking the questions that our teachers ask. And We are gonna hold on the self-care thing for right now. We want to rush in. This is a meeting that we do this as well, and we already extended it to 12:30, and I know that people can get back to the office and all that cool people. I want to give all of the time that you deserve, the work that you put into, kind of getting that information. So we're gonna hold off on that for right now, and then back in April, as a reminder, here. But she did hand out those cards, I don't know if you want those back.
I do, there's a little white basket over here.
Yes, but, you can reflect on that card, and kind of think about if you had attended this session, like bring that back.
Cards are just to make you recognize that self-care is not always time, money, and effort. It can be done easy,
Today is Student Night. That was our first meeting of 2020. Thank you all for coming. Thanks for the new folks who joined us today. Our next meeting is April 29th. So looking forward to seeing you all again then. Use the Google group. If there's any questions you want to bring out after today's discussion that should be, that you want to share with the whole group, please use that Google group. We do have two continuing ed commits for LADAC, CRSWs. You'll need to complete that evaluation, and Addie's at the door to check your name off, to make sure you get those credits.
Polly didn't share,
So this is for Polly, we'll hold that off for April. I'm sorry about that. The discussion was so rich that we didn't want to, speed it up. Bring your name tag, please. And thank you all so much for coming.
Is the survey that you,
I wanna go that way.
Hand that over to Addie and
thank you. So are you going to road?
Yeah, I'm gonna ride back with you, and then I'll just hop in my car and pick up.
Can I ride back with you guys too?
Yeah.
Then when we're done work, you can bring me back here so I can pick up my car. I just wanna ride with you.
Are you going to the office?
Good to see you guys.
Hi, nice to see you. I'll put you on the list.
Here's how I would respond to that question. Really, Donna?
Oh, like,
Yeah, like,